Well, first thing I'd like to tell you why it's a good morning. Sun's actually shining today. The trees are green, the sky is blue, and the water is clear. At least for some of us. Which reminds me, what are you guys going to do about our native cousins and their water problem? It's been way too long. The one thing I've noticed this election is, well, first off, it doesn't seem like the man I address is Justin Trudeau really cares. From his actions, he's a child. He's just a child. He's like some kind of self-indulged rock star or something. Most of us are scratching out a living, and it's getting hard. In this new world economy, with the new world order pressing down on us, it's just really, really, really hard. I mean, if you take somebody, say, okay, let's take your average middle class. Well, besides, the few entrepreneurs that are left on this land that work 24/7 to hold a middle class position, let's take a look at the people in mainstream media. Well, there's your middle class. And they're willing to sell you out. Or at least this is what it looks like to me, right? These folks that work in mainstream media are willing to sell you down the river, sell off the free press, and sell out your freedoms and attack anyone who disagrees with the status quo of the day, who disagrees with their narrative, which is usually dictated down to them through political correctness from their masters who pay them. Now, it's certainly not the people. I mean, the free press is supposed to be there for, as a check and balance, so that we don't end up with another, a tyranny-style government. All right, some kind of authoritative, dictatorship. And authority and dictatorship basically mean the same thing. But as a self-governing man of mankind on this land, I don't need your dictatorship. Okay, what I need you to do is I need you to balance the books. I need you to stop spending the public's money willy-nilly as you see fit. Or as you don't see fit, as you don't care, obviously. So my question is to all these political people, I have more than one, but will you pass some kind of legislation that limits how much of the public money you throw around? So let's go to like a GDP thing, okay? So the GDP is made up of a few things: customs, the public's natural resources. The government has no natural resources; it all belongs to us. What we can sell and what we can collect on customs and that kind of thing. So I believe that there should be a law that limits all your expenditures and all the money that you hand out willy-nilly. Now, first off, I don't believe in corporate welfare at all. Period. If a company's running in Canada, then they better run themselves properly and be good corporate persons and act accordingly. Now the problem is we have a lot of bad laws on the books that limit um, what not only what corporations could do, but also what people can do. Okay, so we have duplicate and triplicate environmental laws that make no sense, and I would like to see these things get regulated, streamlined. Um, even like a lot of people probably don't know, but the NDP, when they attack the family farms, and all of a sudden, and like I said before in another film, like the family farms get attacked by the banking system about incorporating themselves. Otherwise, they can't secure the loans and credit required to be able to keep up their equipment so that they can keep farming. I mean, because equipment's just, I don't even know. Does Canada, do we even make farm equipment in Canada anymore? We used to. We used to. Used to have the harvester plant in Hamilton. I believe Cat used to be here. I think they're gone now too. So I don't even know what we manufacture anymore. It's ridiculous. So no, I'm going to digress if I keep this up. All right. So anyways, I wish and require that there is limitations on the spending of all public servants. Now here's the way I think it should be done, and I've thought this for a long time. If you're going somewhere on the public's behalf, then what you need to do is put it out of pocket and then claim it on your income tax. Because public servants truly do earn income. All right? And that is true as far as I can see. And everybody else has to put out a pocket and then deduct it from their income tax. And I believe, besides just say a humble amount of office expense, like a cash flow, small amount of cash flow, pretty much everything should be put out of your pocket, and then you can go and deal with CRA about your expenses and be audited. So whoever gets in, are you going to restrict the spending of public money and bring out some legislation that only allows our public servants to, I don't know, there must be a formula you heads can work out. You know what, I bet you there's some very smart people within this nation that could come up with some great formulas, because we have some great schools and some great educated minds that are actually in the private sector because, well, they got better than the C average at school. Now, number two, does anybody understand what unemployment insurance is, really? Unemployment insurance is, it's quasi-government, all right? It's actually, it was set up by Canadians so that after the Second World War, a lot of manufacturing, everything came down to a lull because we weren't, feeding the war machine. And so what they did was they set up the unemployment insurance. So like if you were working for 6 months and lost your job, because jobs were coming and going, kind of like they are now. But if you lost your job, then you were able to keep your dignity, apply for unemployment insurance, and receive it for a year. It was pretty much standard, And the man I addressed as Trudeau Senior, he still started calling all our cousins over in the Maritimes a bunch of lazy bums and stuff, that were just living off unemployment. Now keep in mind, unemployment insurance has a separate bank account, so it doesn't go into just the general revenue fund, all right, like everything else. And it's supposed to be separate, and I remember one of these past politicians deciding to dig into it. I think it was about $500 million or something, not that long ago, and decided to dig into it to balance their budget. And I believe unemployment's been having a few issues since. Now, I wish to know if you're going to pass a legislation that outlaws the government or any government entity from reaching in their fingers into the people's unemployment insurance, so this never happens again. And they've got, like, this is a big industry, man. There's way too many people that are working for unemployment now. It's just crazy. And they've got it so, so many young folks that are, like, I see it is, well, the economy in Edmonton is doing better than most, so you don't really get unemployment insurance unless you have this much, and then you can only have that much, and so on and so forth. Well, the next party that gets in, just standardize it and make it equal for all. There's no reason that you people have to, divide this nation by saying, well, you can have this, if you get that, we'll make it a little easier for you, but we're going to make it harder for you. Now, other than someone just blatantly quitting their job because they have a bad attitude or something, there should be no other restrictions on unemployment. I know one of my neighbors here just recently, and so this is, you can take this, you can take this, whatever. But he was working for a company. It's a fairly decent, big company in British Columbia, and the new manager didn't like him. He's had a few issues with the guy, and he's been there a number of years. So he gets called into the office here just recently. And the manager said, and he looks at the manager and he says, "Oh, what now?" And the manager says, "Well, yeah, we're going to fire you." And he's like, "Why?" He says, "Now they get these. He delivers parts and stuff, but they get these little cars, and we're in the interior of, or within the interior of the jurisdiction of British Columbia, so everything is a travel. So they got these little cars and stuff, and just outright, without any witnesses, any evidence, any facts, any merit whatsoever, said, well, you're using too much gas in that car, which means you're stealing it, and therefore we're firing you." So he's like, dude, I get in the car, I deliver the parts. What are you saying? I'm siphoning gas? Like, seriously. And these little cars, they don't hold a lot of gas. So yeah, basically, so he applies for unemployment. Well, that manager that obviously had, to me, it was obvious that the manager had some personal issues with the man, turned around and got a hold of unemployment and said, no, he was stealing from the company. So here's a man that was considered guilty until proven innocent. Yet, if there was a case of theft going on, there was no police report or anything else done, no charges laid. Now, for unemployment insurance, all right, to be able just to willy-nilly say, "Oh yeah, you don't get unemployment because you're a thief," without them saying, "Well, okay, sir, did you make a police report? Let's see the police report," and so on and so forth. I mean, if something happens and you're collecting other insurances, what happens is you have a police report, and then you show them the police report and what was missing, and then you work it out from there. So I believe that what we need to do is repeal all the crap they've added to unemployment insurance and go back to the 70s version. You have a job for 6 months, you get unemployment for a year. Unemployment does not cost the taxpayer, okay? It costs the worker. Okay, we pay into the insurance, and if for some strange reason, because businesses aren't doing well here. I mean, they're really not doing well here. But if for some reason you're unjustly fired, or your job ends or the company closes, which is happening, or let's say the King of Canada decides to, well, I'm gonna break all the laws that we have in for fair play here for contracts, and I'm just going to go over and give it to the slave labor in China and let them dump a bunch more steel on us that's just going to rust out, quicker than you can shake a stick at. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to Edmonton. Not one of my favorite places. It's got great history though. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. I was up in the legislative library. Hey, if you ever get a chance, seriously, if you ever get a chance and you want to study some history, go to your legislative libraries. Wow. All the stuff that's in there should be in the schools, teaching our kids our culture, because it's all there. The making of a could have been great nation. Was about to be a great nation. But anyways, oh jeez, I know I digress a lot, but yeah, so which one of you guys is going to put through a bill to repeal this unemployment insurance? Me, I've been self-employed forever, so I don't pay into it or whatever. I guess I can't. I believe Harper passed it so that self-employed people, subcontractors, and that could pay into it and then receive it. So, if you wish, but yeah, which one of you folks is going to put a bill in to repeal the Unemployment Insurance Act as it stands, and bring us back to a place of dignity for our people? And I heard all the excuses from Senior back in the 70s, and just all he did, well, he did exactly what they're doing now. If you don't agree with something and you happen to be of the wrong color or the wrong sex, right? You happen to be that part of mankind for some reason that's supposed to be self-loathing and self-hating. If you don't agree with somebody, right away you were labeled a Nazi, fascist, like right away, and discredited. And to me, that seems like an unlawful thing to do to anyone. I don't think you can publicly come out and start to slander and besmirch anyone's good name just willy-nilly. Like I was watching that, what is it, Rebel Media, and I watched them. They were down in the young man there, and it's funny because he's as white gets. But I'm watching the young man, and he's doing stuff in Washington. He was not allowed in his own consulate to report or ask questions as a reporter. He was called and quote and unquote, basically, okay, maybe not quote and unquote, but this security dude is standing outside and looking at the kid and saying, no, you're a Nazi and you're a fascist company or whatever. I can't believe it. So Casper Milquetoast Scheer, the man I address is Justin. So you guys can just run around and label anybody you wish because their presence makes you uncomfortable, yet you are acting as a public servant, and you are the one to be held to public scrutiny. Not that kid, you. This is wrong. And like I said before, I grew up, I didn't grow up during the Second World War, but I grew up after, and the whole fascist and communist thing was pretty predominant. I mean, the towers used to go off at noon. The early warning towers used to go off at noon around this whole country. That's why you knew it was noon, because of the Cold War. But the whole fascist thing, mom and pop walking down the street and two guys in uniforms and a dog, all of a sudden cornea, papers, we need to see your papers. And if you don't have your papers, you're off to some kind of gulag of some sort. Well, you couldn't do that to a man or a woman anyone of mankind on this land, but you can now? Whoa! Which one of you guys is going to repeal the Unemployment Act as a stance and change it around and give people back their dignity and stop making them beg for a benefit, right? An insurance benefit that they paid for. This ain't coming from the taxpayer. This is coming from the workers. We all paid into it, and everybody should have a right to apply for it, beg for it, or ask for it when things don't work out. Now the homeless deal here is huge, and the price of having a roof over your head on this land is extramental. Like it's just huge. It's crazy. So you guys screwed up the economy, and I wish and require you to fix it. All right, so so that's one of my questions. Who's going to fix unemployment, especially for our youth and our older folks? You know, I'm at that age now where last winter I went, got a job in a shop, and pretty cool place. I was 15 years older than the oldest guy there, and the oldest guy there, he was talking about retirement, and geez, he looked, and just being around him, he felt like, you know, just his aura was, you know, older than I was. Poor guy, but good guy. But anyways, yeah, they were calling me their what was the boss calling me? His old millwright, his old I don't know, but they're all making fun of me because I was old. It's just too crazy. But yeah, I mean, it is a safety net that was put into place to so that people did not lose their dignity if for whatever reason lost their job. So I wish and require somebody up there, you know, up there in the public service to fix that. And I bet you can get rid of a whack of workers out of that office, out of that whole conglomerate. There's just too many people working for the government. When the government's the biggest employer in the land, look, we're going to end down Mugabe's, you know, road here if we don't smarten up. And of course, the buck stops with you and I, the people of this land, because this is our land, and they serve us. So you need a voice. I come across this thing. I was you know, everybody talks like the Queen was over here a few years back celebrating the anniversary of the Magna Carta, right? And I have to throw this in because this is too funny. Now the Magna Carta was basically, well, it is a statute, all right? It is a statute. And so, of course, it came in and out like 3 times, because what it basically was it was, you know, so the king couldn't willy-nilly just take everything from the lords and the knights and people of title. It wasn't really for the common guy. So it was those persons of title that that basically put a knife to the king's throat and made him sign this thing. And of course, you know, when his son became king, I think he pretty much killed them all. All those guys that did that to his daddy. But then reinstituted it, and I think it came in and out. So it started in late 11th century. I think it ended up being solidified in somewhere in the 12th. So now, even though it's a statute, it does recognize that certain even as a person, I mean, a man or mankind, let's say, has inalienable, intrinsic, fundamental rights. We're born with them. This is a common law land. This land does recognize the supremacy of God. All right, and so we created the government to serve us. Okay, and I'm not talking about just the individuals, you know, Mr. So and so and Sir such and such, but what I'm saying is, It was mankind on these common law lands within these Judeo-Christian nations that created government to serve the people. All right. Um, so this Magna Carta thing. Now, what's happened? What's happened within the judiciary of Canada is like, if you go to court for some reason, and hey, these days everybody's ending up in court. It's they make a lot of money off the public there. It's like another tax. So and the more bad laws that they come out with, and the more authoritarian positions that they give public servants, creates more dramatic bad laws, like, and more people end up in court. So anyways, if you went to court and you tried to stand and just and present yourself, you know, in a fashion that, look, hang on a second, man. I mean, we've recognized the rights that were put into statute since, you know, the early 12th century, called the Magna Carta. Well, the Canadian courts, the judiciary, will not recognize that. So why is the Queen coming over here to celebrate something that's not recognized? Now, a friend of mine wrote a letter to Elizabeth and said, hey, what's going on? When did the Magna Carta get suspended in Canada? And she did write him back. And she said, well, that's the first I've heard of it. All right, so these guys are getting a little out of control, man. These guys are going like, okay, this is our place and you people serve us. That is completely backwards. So you got to remember, when North America was first being settled, founded, discovered, whatever parts that England was claiming fell basically under the idea of the Magna Carta, the idea of a free people. Our United States American cousins, and I say US of A. I try to say US of A also on purpose, because the United States of America is a de jure government. The United States is their corporate entity and is the corporation and de facto. So, but I won't get into that. They're no different than us in many ways. But so the Virginia Trading Company, you've heard of the Hudson's Bay Trading Company. Well, there was also the Virginia Trading Company, Crown Company. And so, we came over, or our forefathers came over from Europe with these freedoms in mind. Now, slavery hadn't been outlawed yet. Slavery was first outlawed in North America, within the nation that we call Canada. Oh, that's part of our culture. The man I address is Justin. That's part of our culture, our Canadian culture. No servitude. And slavery is outlawed in all its forms on this land, mister. Part of our culture. And I will not be a slave to your political correctness. Yeah, you can kill me socially. You can kick in my door and you can drag me off to jail because you didn't like my freedom of expression. And that's where we're at now, folks. You better get scared. Okay? You remember that young lady that these people are manipulating, and she sailed over here just recently and stuff? I mean, that's a manipulation of this young lady. And I'm glad she found something, that she believes in, and that gave her a life and some hope and so on and so forth. But she said, she wants everybody to be scared just like her. Well, you better be a lot more scared of a tyrannical, authoritarian government that we are receiving right now. We're like at the peak, and we're about to roll downhill. And I mean, if you studied any history, you look at any place where the fascists, the authoritarians came in, they just went down the tubes. I mean, look at poor Poland. I helped a guy from Poland immigrate here, and I've worked with a couple of Polish people. But But that poor man and his family, the